Hi, this is Wet Nets. I'm Matt Hayes and this is my fishing mate Mick Brown, and you join us here today at the start of another one of our fishing adventures. We've had loads together over the years actually, and that's what Wet Nets is all about, because if you're into fishing you'll know that it is an adventure, and you're going to be joining us as we travel all over the UK, occasionally to Europe as well, to hopefully sample fishing at its very best. And we've come here today to this wonderful carp lake in the Midlands, but there is one small problem, and it concerns an absolute mountain of gear. I better give Brownie a hand before I get in trouble. Either I'm getting older or this kit's getting heavier. Well, we've just got in the swims, and I know it is a lot of rigmarole setting up all this plant, but believe me, it's an integral part of modern carp fishing. And I guess we're all big boy scouts really. We just like going outside and camping out and having a good time with our mates. That's what it's all about. Mick, what do you think of this lake?
Well, I mean, you'd have to be out of your mind not to appreciate it. It's such a beautiful place. But you know what I want to get out of this? I want to catch a 30-pound carp. I mean, I've been carp fishing for 30 odd years and I've never caught one in this country. Do you know, an interesting fact? I went through my diaries the other day. In the old days when I carp fished, do you know I got through 800 carp before I even caught a 20-pounder?
That's incredible, isn't it? Because, I mean, nowadays, people would be really surprised by that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, 30s are more plentiful, and we know there's a few in this lake, so do you think I've got a good chance? There's
fish of that size in here, but I can't guarantee you're going to catch one, because that's carp fishing.
Yeah, well, I'll live in hope, Matt.
I mean, for me, it's not about really catching the fish as much as the tactical side of it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets something different out of it. I mean, for me, the moment I live for, and I'm sure a lot of other carp anglers do, it's the moment the reel and the alarm starts screaming.
Yeah.
And you're into a powerful fighting fish. And if it's not a 30-pound, I'm not going to break my heart over it.
Sometimes I'll go out with one rod and I just want to catch a carp.
Yeah.
But other times I want to pitch the old bivvy up, chill out for a couple of days,
yeah,
and really get into the mindset.
Yeah.
But then there's more to carp fishing, because your rig has to be right and your bait has to be right.
Yeah.
Because remember, Mick, when you were carp fishing against the carp. They were your opposition. Nowadays, it's just as likely that the other carp anglers are going to be the people you're competing against as well.
Yeah, it certainly seems a lot more difficult today, you know, especially on waters like this where there's anglers fishing all the time.
Difficult, but in some ways pleasurable, because the kit is so good.
I mean, maybe that's the challenge, you know, not just to outwit the fish, but to outwit the other anglers as well.
Mick, if you consider the work done by carp anglers over successive generations, the work they've done on rigs and on baits, and the way they've refined them almost to the state of perfection, is quite remarkable, really. In a sense, you could say that carp fishing is almost an art form. Here we go. Mick! Well, would you believe it? I think this fish may have gone.
Have you got it moving, mate?
Well, not really.
Shall I get the waders on?
Well, I wouldn't yet, mate, actually, because this fish is absolutely solid. It's gone really, really solid.
Oh, that's that weed bed you told me about.
Yeah, it could be. After all that waiting, it's just all locked up now. The fish just tore off into the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
And there's no movement at all. I've got a feeling it's ditched the hook. So I'm using barbless hooks.
Yeah, you can usually feel them bumping, can't you?
Yeah. And I think it literally dumped the hook and it's dumped it into that stubble. I don't think the fish is there anymore. Felt like a big fish, you know. I'm gutted, mate, I tell you. Absolutely gutted. Well, if you're a carp angler, then you're going to hate this guy who's just joined me here now, because Rob Hales, you actually own this lake here. It's an absolutely fabulous place, I've got to say. Everybody's green with envy. How come you got associated with carp lakes?
I think when I was young, I fished other people's waters. I fished carp fisheries, which were also match fisheries. I became disillusioned with it all, and some time ago decided to do my own thing and control my own destiny. They've always captured my imagination from when I was a very young lad fishing cuttle mill in the West Midlands, and there's something magic about them. I've dabbled into other species, but I keep coming back to carp, and that's always been my main interest.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, Rob, I mean, you've got some clonking fish in this lake. You've seen them grow from, like, little tiny babies to great big carp. So, in a sense, they're your pets, aren't they? I mean, how do you actually feel when you see other people catching them?
You get a little bit concerned because you're worried about their welfare, and they are not only special to me, they're valuable in themselves, because it's difficult to restock once you've got a fishery settled, so that you can't really replace them without putting the other fish in the fishery at risk. So I'm always concerned about their well-being, but as long as they're handled carefully, you have to accept that that's what fishing's all about.
Yeah. Just answer me one last question, Rob. What is it that keeps bringing you back carp fishing?
It's the mystery of the sport. It's not known for sure what's out there. It's seeing the fish and the fishery progress, and seeing the smile on the face of the anglers who catch my fish brings me a lot of pleasure.
Ready, Matt? Matt?
Good lad. Bit of dinner. Now, you see, this is what carp fishing is really all about, because we're here on this fabulous lake in Shropshire with carp in the lake in front of us. All the winds died down, it's stopped raining, the lake's gone perfectly calm, and it's real atmospheric stuff, isn't it, Mick?
Oh, it is, yeah. And of course, even if you don't get any fish, you've got this to look forward to.
Well, when I brought it down this morning, it was in these lovely little neat containers, and you've put it in there, chucked in a load of taters and a load of chicken legs, smashed it all up to bits, and what started out as a chicken casserole is now going to be like eating a blooming pomegranate. We'll be picking bones out all
Tell you
night.
what, you could wallpaper a room with this.
I'm thinking about sticking it round my method theatre as it happens.
Anyway, let's get it down so then we get some
suppose
sleep,
we
shall we?
should,
Yeah, I'm getting tired of you.
I am. You getting tired of me? Is that what you're saying? I'm getting tired of you?
Well, I am, but I'm ready for bed as well.
This is my Mick Brown impersonation. White beard. This is where we got to be real quiet. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. I've seen a few fish up here in the shallows. The water's only about 2 feet deep. I'm going to try for these fish on floating dog biscuits, but we've got to go really quiet. Come on. I'm going to nick 2 dog biscuits onto the hook now. Okay, here you go. Now I've got to try and throw this long over the top of the feeding fish and then drag it back. I'm actually watching my hook bait, not the bubble float. The bubble float's filled with water, so it's clear, and the water gives it casting weight. But you don't watch the float, you just use the float as a marker, and my biscuit is immediately behind the float. I'm in. Oh, crikey. No. I hate carp fishing, I hate it. Sometimes these fish are just impossible. Well, the fishing's a bit slow at the moment, so Mick and I have taken a break and we've come round to see an old mate of mine who actually works in fisheries, and this is Ed Brown. Now, Ed, how you doing, old boy? Hopefully you've got what I asked you for.
I think I might have just. I've got 4 different species with me, so hopefully it should cover just, what we want to look at, really.
Brilliant. Now, I've asked Ed to come down because I thought it might be nice to actually look at different strains of carp. So hopefully you've got a few with you, mate. Can we give you a hand?
Yep.
Now, I should say that you've brought these down in an oxygenated tank, haven't you? Just grab that.
Right, yeah.
Right, now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the different strains of carp, this lovely looking fish here is a common carp. And in fact, the original carp brought into this country were brought in, by the monks, Ed?
Yeah, they brought in by the monks round about the sort of 16th century, purely as a food source. They would have looked very similar to that. They were more a lean, powerful looking fish, which rarely exceeded double figures in weight.
So what would have happened then, Ed? Because we've got another one here. Is this the next sort of strain in the evolutionary train? Not evolutionary, but the actual breeding.
Yeah, that would be the next step. Basically, the monks used their shrewdness in fish farming to develop less scales on the fish, to save the housewives descaling the fish.
Right, so in fact this is a mirror carp, and you can tell that by the large mirror-like scales on its body, so it's got fewer scales, and that would be easier to clean if you were going to cook it. It's a bit misleading because these are the most common variety now, aren't they? Not the common carp.
Yeah.
And then, Ed, oh, you've got a real exotic there. This one is actually the rarest of them all, Ed, I think.
That's the leather carp, yeah. They're tougher skinned. The other strains of species use their scales to protect them. Now, the leather carp is much tougher skinned, so he's more protected that way.
He's got a few scales along his back, Ed, hasn't he?
Yeah, just a faint row of scales either side of the back there, yeah. The 100% true leather carp wouldn't have those.
Now, this one, and I'll just leave Mick maybe to put that fish back while we have a look at this one. You might be wondering what sort of ghostly apparition you're looking at, and in fact you'd be right, because this one's a ghost carp, Ed.
That's right, yeah. It's a cross between actually a mirror carp and a koi carp. They do crossbreed with commons as well, and we stock them into our fisheries, and they do grow quite large. They're more thought of as sort of ornamental fish and very popular in garden centres for stocking garden ponds.
So in fact we've got 3 species of what we call king carp, which is the common, the mirror and the leather, and then you've got the ornamentals. Now I think we should point out to everyone, Ed, that in fact these small carp you've shown us here have the potential to grow on to enormous sizes. A sack of potatoes, folks, is about the size of the British record carp.
That's right, yeah.
I wouldn't mind one of them today, Ed.
No, it would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Here we are, it's daybreak, second morning. I've just moved in swims. We've had an awful night of weather, I've just heard Mick shout, I think he's got a fish.
You're too late, mate.
You've got one?
Yeah.
Good lad.
Oh, it's run me a right merry dance, this one has.
Oh, is it a big fish?
It's not a 30, but it's a little fat devil.
It's worth getting wet in the rain for, Brownie, that's for sure.
I've finally got one.
Oh, that's brilliant. Nice fish too.
Yeah, I've got to watch this. A bit lively.
Well, I can't wait to see it, Mick, because I've forgotten what a carp looks like. Well, that's a nice fish, that is, mate.
Either
I'll tell you.
I'm getting old, or it's bigger than I think.
It's a lovely fish, that. Oh, well done, sir.
Right, yeah.
Well done indeed.
You take care of the fish.
Oh, mate, I tell you, look at that. Oh, it's a glorious fish, Mick. Well done. It's one of the mirror carp that we were looking at earlier on. You can see along here, along its back, it's got this row of mirror scales. It's actually not got lots and lots of scales, but the bigger scales are along the back. And look at these. I think these are absolutely wonderful. They're almost like little starbursts on its tail. And then the yellow-orange here around the wrist of the tail at the bottom. And that lovely slate grey back. And shall I show you where the real weight of this fish is? Right there. It's like a breeze block. Isn't it fantastic?
And look at that mouth.
Now, a few years ago, back in the 50s and 60s, most anglers believed that fish like this were uncatchable. They really believed that. They believed that they were super intelligent, and I've begun to believe it myself while we've been here, Mick.
But of course.
They're not.
No.
And when you do catch them, look at where the power comes from. It's a fantastic fight. It's got a rudder as big as my hand.
Just take one last look at it, because I've worked so hard for this fish. Just look at the thickness of that back. And probably in a water of this quality, that fish is going to double that size. Some lucky devil's going to catch it. And off she goes into the murky depths. Well, I'm very pleased about that.
Well, I've left Mick back at the camp with most of my gear, and I've come down here to the shallow area of the lake because I've seen a few fish moving. But if I'm going to catch them, I've got to be really quiet, and that means getting my baits into the water with a minimum of disturbance. And the way I'm going to do it is this. I've basically got a pop-up boilie on the hook. This is a boilie that will sit off the bottom above the silt, and next to it these 5 free baits. Now they're attached to a piece of dissolving PVA string. It dissolves and it will leave my hook bait sitting next to a pile of appetising freebies. And basically, having made 2 casts already, this is my final cast, and I've only made 3 casts into the area, no additional splashes. So let's just get this one out and sit back and wait. We're in. Oh yes. I've tried so hard to catch one of these. They've been so difficult, and this little tactical gamble has produced a run. And that's what this game is all about. It's about trying to outsmart these fish. And sometimes I think they're brighter than we are, you know. Here we go. Just plodding away, big surges of power. It's pretty hairy playing them in this shallow water because they keep turning over all the time, and you feel the line go slack and continually worry that the hook's fallen out. Oh, I hate it. They changed direction there. Fish is cutting left now, trying to go back out of the bay. They're really, really strong. This whole thing is cat and mouse. It's a game of strategies and tactics and counter tactics and second guessing what your opponent's going to do. It's fascinating, really, and very exciting. It's a bit of a donkey on the quiet. Come on. Yes! I've got him. Great stuff. Oh, it's a big fish too. Beauty. Now let's go for that classic moment when we part the mesh and inspect our prize. That's a gorgeous fish. Oh, girl. It's a good thing to bring a change of clothes when you come carp fishing. Steady on. Oh, give me a right beating up for my trouble now. Look at that. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll weigh the fish and then she'll calm down a bit. 39.8. Big fish. There she is. 39.5 pounds. And let me tell you, this is my biggest carp caught in Britain. And I'm absolutely chuffed to bits.
And did you get a good fight from it?
Mick, it was unbelievable. 20 minutes I played it for.
Did you?
Yeah. It was too deep for the water because it's only 2 foot deep, honestly. Well, what a fantastic adventure. All good things come to an end, unfortunately, including fishing adventures, of course. Mick, it's been great, but hard work.
Yeah, it's been hard work, but a good result. Congratulations.
Oh, mate, I'm just chuffed to bits.
Excellent result.
You don't know how we feel when something like that comes off. It's just great, it really is. But unfortunately, that's all we've got time for on this particular episode of Wet Nets. Join us next time when me and Mr. Brown here will be off on another fishing adventure somewhere. And let's just hope, Michael, it comes a little bit easier.
You bet.
So that's fishing.